If this is your first time here, we dissect the film in 3 different categories. The first one up is plot structure / narrative structure / story. It's funny that you picked this movie because Kai and I, outside of this podcast, have talked at length, mainly because we had
I thought about that a lot.
Yeah. This past year we did a screenwriting competition together.
Okay.
And Midnight NYC.
Yeah. Which was really great, and we ended up creating, in my opinion, one of the best scripts that I've ever been able to be a part of. That we hopefully want to make one day. But one of the rounds, they give you like a genre, a character, and then a situation.
They do that every round.
Yeah. Sorry.
The first round, we wrote a very cool script, the one that we hoped to, and like placed, and it was a cool moment. And then the second round, we got fantasy.
Yeah.
As our genre, which both
Fairy
of us-
tale.
Oh, it's
Fairy tale.
Oh, great.
And we had like, we were literally, there was one night we were up until like maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning talking about how much we hate fantasy and fairy tale and also diving into the core childhood traumas of like why
Why we
and like why we don't like it,
Yeah,
why we
yeah.
don't gravitate towards it, why we
that we
don't.
both liked very dark,
Yeah.
like wounded child movies when we were children.
Yeah. I'm like, but does
Travis and I like to play the victim.
I'm like, but does the kid die? Like, that's all I want to know. But this movie is just, it's so good. It's phenomenal, in my opinion. It is based on a Neil Gaiman book. Have you read it?
I have not read it. And I didn't know that it was a comic. It was a graphic novel before it was.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Okay.
Yeah. When I saw the Marv production logo come up,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is a Marv production? And
Who is Marv Productions?
Marv is
'Cause I
Mac and
meant to. Oh, got it. I meant to look that up, and then I was like,
And then like the very next thing was like a film by Matthew Vaughn. And I was like, oh, Matthew Vaughn.
well, I was also waiting when Marv came up for AL to also pop up afterwards, so that it just said Marvel, and it didn't ever happen. So
Well, it's funny because their logo now is the like different colored ones that like
Marvel or Marv?
No, Marv.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always feel really bad for people who are colorblind because it just probably looks like a bunch of circles. Because it's like the red Marv in the green and blue.
Oh,
I think I know what you're talking about.
I always thought it was a major FU to like
colorblind.
people who
Yeah, what we don't know is like his ex-wife is Starlight, or he's like, and she owns half the company.
She can't see it.
It's this.
Ah,
Oh,
yes. Well, you know what? I do know that company, but that logo is so different.
Every
from
time
the
I've
old
seen it, I'm
logo.
like,
Yeah.
dang, whoever's like
Yeah,
red, green,
that's true,
colorblind. I'm just like,
actually.
just-
yeah.
Just a screen.
yeah. So the movie starts with, gosh, how does this movie start? Because like I always forget
It
how.
starts so quickly with his
With the prostitute.
father,
Yeah.
and yes, and the
Yeah, with the
prostitute.
prostitute.
I just automatically think that fantasy movies are children's
Childish.
movies, like always.
Yeah.
And I will say this was family friendly for sure. Like if you were a child, if I was like 7 years old and watching that, I don't think I would have realized what he was doing exactly. You know,
Yeah.
like I think there is a lot of that in like, well,
It
yeah,
is
family friendly.
PG-13 though,
oh,
which is interesting.
Why?
probably because
I think there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of sexual stuff in it. In my opinion.
There's a lot of jokes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought the dogs eating one of the witches, like that was pretty grown up.
oh, I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Like tear her apart in the end.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
eat her alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And they
always
just stamp her out of the house. Yeah.
So Amanda grew up watching this, and one year we just, I don't know, I was like, let's watch Stardust. Like, I always gave her crap about it. I always make fun of her, like, oh my gosh, she likes Stardust. And then we watched it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what other movies do you recommend? Like, what movies are you hiding from your childhood that I need to watch?
I have a question too. I am currently very in love. So I watched this movie and it was sweet, and I like thought about the person I'm in love with because it's very romantic. But I did wonder, like, several months ago when I was like, I hate men and the dating apps, if I would have been like, screw this movie. So I guess, Michael, you're happily married. Are you
Utterly single.
utterly single? Are you optimistically hopeful though?
Yeah, I think sure. Yeah. Sure, I can be optimistic today. Yes. But I felt that way too every time I've watched it, whether I'm like in a relationship or not. It just makes you one of my friends, she says this, she's like, I just love love and I just hate hate. And I feel like it's watching this movie is so much like it's like, oh, I just love love. Like it's just a sweet movie. So yeah.
So maybe if I wasn't in love, I would choose to believe in love again after watching this movie, which we all need.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's so funny, though, seeing him in the beginning being caught up on Sienna Miller's character, Victoria.
Victoria.
Because part of me, like, especially like now in my 30s, processing younger Travis, who was a hopeless romantic, and I feel like I would still say that I am, but like also having the logical side of my brain now fully developed as opposed to a teenager, being like, gosh, dude, you're such an idiot. Like, what are you doing? Like,
But is the logical side of your brain fully developed?
very fair. But I was like, dude, what are you doing? She's clearly not into you. You're humiliating yourself.
Yeah.
But then like a split second later, I'm like, oh, but I don't know. 15-year-old Travis would probably do that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
not the creepy stuff, because if we do break it down, like she said no, dude. Like,
Yeah.
why you're still pushing this?
But she like makes him think that like
Oh, yeah.
she wants him in some way.
In some way,
She went on a date.
Well,
Like
that's why it's fun that Claire Danes is like, but you shouldn't, like, why are you, what does she say? It's like,
Oh.
why do you
Like-
why do you have to prove your love?
Oh, yeah.
And why aren't you waiting for her to prove it to you? And that was just a very cute, simple question that, like, if you are a kid all the way to, it's a very universal.
There's actually quite a few nuggets in here that are just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, so
Like,
okay,
also about being yourself and like being true to yourself. You really are.
Yeah.
So none of us have read the book or graphic novel. So I wonder if that's part of why it got panned. Is like maybe people that knew this book were just like, because it's already 2 hours and 7 minutes. I wonder how long the book is, and maybe it was one of those things where it was like, oh, in the book, this whole thing with the father going to see the prostitute and whatever was maybe 8 chapters, and like in the book, it's this very quick thing in the beginning. One thing I will say, and we can sort of lay out the whole movie structure, but
Sure.
so in the beginning, this father, he's not the father yet, this young boy wants to go across this wall from his very
From
human
England, right?
It's
land
from
in
England.
England
England
into Fantasyland.
into
Yeah.
a fantasy land, or that's like the fairy tales say that this land has, we don't know, because no one's ever crossed the wall. And so he like tricks the guard, which was way too easy for him to do, especially since later when his son tries to do it, the like 80-year-old man who
Knows kung fu.
knows kung fu.
Got the Neo update in the Matrix.
Yeah, right. But he gets over the wall. One thing I will say is, and he wanders into this fantasy land, which is essentially just like this big open market.
Yeah.
Where that's the first part that he stumbles
Swap
upon.
meets are fantasy. Like,
The
they
swap meets
are-
are fantasy. But
they're
there's all of
fantastical.
there's all these crazy things. Like the very first thing that I noticed anyway was these miniature live elephants.
Yeah.
And like sitting in this thing. But he wasn't like, his mind wasn't blown.
good
Interesting.
I was like, I would be
That is like
shitting myself if I was like, I would be like, what is happening? Instead, he's just like, la da da. And then there's this like gorgeous goddess who is chained to a.
That's why he didn't notice the mini elephant. he noticed the chained up goddess who was paying attention to him. So any teenage boy out there is like, oh my gosh, she's paying attention to me.
Like
Yeah, but there was
She
all
sees
these.
me.
There were all these like rules though that seem to be like, he asks her how much this flower is that he's gonna buy, and she answers him with this bizarre like, it'll only cost you your childhood dreams or something like that, childhood memories, I think. And he just immediately, he doesn't ask what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
He just immediately is like, oh, and what does this one cost? Or that's, and I was like, what?
That's fair.
There were things like that all the way through where it was just accepted by the human characters that came into the fantasy land, the fantasy of all of this,
Sure.
Yeah.
like immediately.
Sure.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Which is interesting because I think a lot of that backstory is probably in the book.
yes,
like,
I was gonna
in the graphic
say.
novel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, I do think, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but I think the beginning of the third act really slows down to where, like, I think we could have condensed that portion. Like, when they're walking and they see the sign that says, like,
Oh, 60
wall,
miles.
60
yeah.
miles or whatever,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh my gosh, we're really, like,
So
oh
we
my
still got
gosh.
60 miles.
Still
to go.
going.
And I do think that pacing is also tied with the, like, it's uninteresting shots during that. Like, they're walking down this gravel road and, like, it's just not a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could have, in my opinion, used less of that and then had a little bit more world building in the
World
beginning.
building in the beginning, yeah.
I do think a lot of the world building is done with the VO of Ian McKellen as well.
Yeah.
And I think I miss a lot of it.
I think some of that, and maybe this is because I am a fantasy person, like I love all of those things. So I think sometimes too, when you have people who, and I think this happens with DC and Marvel a lot too, we have people who are like really, really big nerdy fans of things. They don't want to hear the explanation of like simple rules that like everyone who like is really into this knows. But I feel like still the filmmaker has an obligation to like make it make sense to someone who knows nothing about these
Right.
things.
Sure.
So I feel like what's happening in Stardust, especially at the beginning, is like they're expecting you to like be used to some of this language, like, oh, it'll cost you all your memories or like things like that. I think they're expecting you to, what is that phrase? Lend your disbelief.
Sure.
Suspend your disbelief.
Suspend your
Because you already
disbelief
know you're
because
going
you
to
already
fantasy.
know what you're getting into. So I think that's some of it.
It's
is left.
interesting you say that, though, because I am a big Batman fan. And I feel the same way towards a lot of Batman movies that I'm like, I don't need to see his parents killed again.
Yeah, again.
Like,
I know there's
It's such a, like, and someone who's going to see Stardust, especially in 2007, probably had read it or, like, known about it in some way. And I don't know. If you did read it, comment down below and let me know.
Yeah.
What did you think of this adaptation? But I feel as though maybe they were just like you said.
yeah, just kind of glossing over that stuff.
I do wonder, but part to your point, as a person who isn't into fantasy and didn't know this story, even having like little things like him just having a moment where he makes a confused face as an actor and using that take rather than one where he just immediately goes into it would actually pull me into the story even more, because then I'm relating to this person who's like, okay, I'm accepting this fantasy stuff, but I'm still recognizing that like it's odd.
It's weird.
Or like, you know, because it just felt so easy that it made me believe he's been here several times before, or it made me believe that England has these all fantastical elements as well, because he seems so comfortable with this.
I think
But-
that's the route that I went. I just kind of assumed that this world that we're entering into
It's not that far out
Yeah.
Well,
from his
Yeah.
regular
I
role.
was gonna say, in like prepping for this, I didn't read the book, but I like read a synopsis of it and I like looked at some other people's like reviews and comparisons. And apparently that is a thing. Like, I don't know what Ben Barnes' character's name is supposed to be, but the dad character, apparently, yeah, it's like well known that there's a mystical world on the other side of the wall, and they know that like magical stuff happens there. So apparently that's part of the
Okay,
book.
so if it's like your
So I guess if you've read the book, you know that.
right, or it's like if you've never been to China before, but you know all of the history of
Yeah,
China,
exactly.
you're gonna be less surprised when you go to China.
I think that's
Yeah.
the sentiment.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay. I could see that.
I was like, who's Ben Barnes? 'Cause I
The
didn't know
father.
who he
Well,
was.
well, getting
Yeah.
on to that. So now we're basically this kid who's crossed the wall ends up finding this goddess that we talked about, sleeping with her, and then going back across the wall. And 9 months later, this baby shows up on his doorstep in actual England, not in the fantasy land. And then we jump ahead, like 18 years?
I think so.
Yeah.
and then we're following who becomes our protagonist, which is
Tristan.
Tristan,
The son.
the son of the first man who went over the wall.
And it was a rough 18 years for that dad. Like going from Ben Barnes to I was like,
To
oh
the
man.
actor who then
Yeah.
played him.
Single fatherhood is whew, it was rough.
And then and this kid Tristan is in love with this girl, Victoria, and they're out having a midnight picnic, and they see a shooting star, and he tells her he will go into the fantasy world and get a piece of this shooting star and bring it back to her to prove that he is a man who is going to travel the world and is worth her beauty and her hand in marriage.
This woman is also taken. I just
Right,
want to
she's
throw that out
completely
there.
engaged to someone else.
Yeah.
She's about to. Oh, okay, she's about to de-engage. She's a little fast.
And then the rest is this adventure that ensues by him going to find this shooting star, which ends up being a human,
Yes.
but a star.
Yes.
Stars just tend to look like humans.
In
Yeah.
shiny dresses. Yep.
Who is played by Claire Danes and named, what was her name?
Yvain.
Yvain.
But at the same time, there's like a King Lear situation going on
Oh,
with the
yeah.
kingdom.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And the
Because what
witches.
causes
The kingdom in those strange world. Or
Yeah.
Yes.
what
Wonder
causes
World,
the star to actually fall is the necklace from the king being sent up.
That's right.
Because the necklace from the king who is
There's a
dying,
lot of storylines going on.
there is a
Yes.
lot of threads.
Which is one of the reasons why I like it so much, because I feel like that's pretty consistent, I think, with fantasy stuff. There are a lot of threads, but they're not always maintained well, especially in movie format. And I feel like they do a good job in this movie of setting them all up. We know what they're doing, and then the way that they interweave, I think it's great. I think it's great.
So let's go through those threads and see and discuss how we feel about those threads. So you have the main one with Tristan. He's like the main protagonist. And then you have the King Lear situation, which is the king is, I'm blanking on the name.
I don't know what the
actor's
kid's
name
name
Yeah,
is.
the
Oh,
main
Peter
king.
O'Toole. The
Yeah.
The
But
dad.
whatever. King Lear. King Lear is dying. He's on his deathbed. And then he has 7?
Yep.
Sons, right? Because
Mhm.
Septimus is the old.
Yeah, right.
He's the 7th one.
Right.
He has 7 sons and then a daughter
Mhm.
that like is just gone.
Well, the daughter is the prostitute
Prostitute.
Yeah.
Mhm.
who
and-
is chained by a witch.
So the King Lear says that whoever gets is it the necklace?
I think it's the stone.
I know they want the
I'm
stone.
a little confused on all
Yeah,
of
But
that.
essentially,
yeah.
they needed to get whatever fell from the sky.
Mm-hmm. No, they
No.
need the necklace.
They need the necklace. They don't know
They
about
don't-
the star.
They don't need the star.
They just know that when King Lear took off this necklace, it started to
Yeah.
glow and then shot up into space. So all they know
So they're
is
just
that they need-
retrieving the same necklace that King
Yes.
Lear had?
and
Yeah.
they're not questioning why it
Oh.
shot up into space either.
Or how it
Actually,
hit the
As
star.
we're going through this,
Yeah.
I'm like, this movie's dumb as hell.
That I literally was like, wait, why? Yeah, I agree.
but I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Which is like
So all of the brothers then set out to
Yeah.
try and find that necklace that the dad could have just, I don't know,
Given
put
to
it
one.
into a trust fund of some kind and had a lawyer decide, I don't know, make a will. Any of those easier
no,
things.
Doesn't he? Isn't there like? Doesn't he say? I was confused because he does say something about like we'll let it's almost like they'll let the necklace decide or something. I think
yeah.
that's what it is. Is like essentially he can't pick over his sons, and they haven't done a good enough job killing each other off yet, so that there's only one of them. So instead. He's like, well, since I'm on my deathbed, we'll let the ruby decide. But there's no backstory about the ruby. What is
No.
this ruby?
Or how he
Where
got
did
it,
come
or-
from?
yeah.
Why does it decide the
Why
fate
is
of
it
the king?
magical? Yeah.
Why is it magical? Why does it fly?
Yeah.
We don't know any of these things.
And like, how did it hit Yvain in the sky? Like, okay, maybe that's too technical, but like, a necklace shoots up into the sky and knocks a star out of the sky, and somehow it ends up. Oh no, she picks it up and puts it on. But it's like,
Oh, she does.
so this is like
Yeah.
all the backstory that I hope that the
it's a
book
little
has.
holy. Yeah.
Which is
Yes.
maybe why it got panned if the readers were like, but they didn't even explain that the necklace does
That's
the
fair.
thing. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm not too sure. So then the brothers set out to find the stone.
Yep.
That's the second thread. The third thread is 3 witches Michelle Pfeiffer being like the main one. I don't know who the other two are, which I should have done my due diligence.
Yeah, I actually meant to look
Look
that
them
up because
up.
they both looked familiar underneath the makeup, but I was like, who are these people in this makeup?
But yeah, you have Michelle Pfeiffer just feasting on this script and plot,
Yeah.
which she was amazing.
She was great.
We'll
She-
talk about that.
Okay, we'll talk about that
Oh,
in
no,
acting.
Okay.
And they need to get the stone because the stone also gives them youth and beauty.
No, they need Yvain's heart. They don't need the stone.
Yeah, they don't need the stone.
They need her
that's
heart.
right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's kind of interesting because they're all like converging off of two different things, but they're like closely related,
Yeah.
you know? So, yes.
And then the fourth thread that is a little bit less important is Robert De Niro's ship.
Yes.
And
Oh, yeah.
they're trying to catch lightning.
Yeah.
They're lightning pirates.
Lightning pirates. Lightning trading pirates, which I actually really thought that was a fun concept.
I love Robert De Niro in this movie.
I didn't at first, and then
I think that's the bait and switch.
Yes.
The bait and
Yeah.
switch is so
and then
good.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, this
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that's
because at first he sounds kind of like the New Yorker Robert De Niro
Yeah.
vibe, and then he becomes something else entirely, and you're like, oh, what?
It's interesting because when they find out that he's I don't know if they were trying to say that he was gay or if he was just like a cross-dressing or like someone who dresses in women's clothing, whatever it may be. It's interesting that his crew knew the whole time, they said.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wonder if it's because he was so bad.
Well, and
at the
they
acting.
use a derogatory term. His crew does for.
I didn't know if that was a real term or not.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Oh, okay.
And it's and so basically saying that he is gay, and then at the end there's that weird wing.
Yeah, between
That
him
you
and
and
Henry Cavill, it's so weird.
It's so weird. You're like, wait, are we also saying that Victoria's betrothed is also swings both ways and is actually having an affair with Thunder Pirate Robert De Niro?
I don't know about his fair as much as like he's just interested in
Oh.
men as well.
That's what I got. Yeah, like it's like, ooh, like a little
Because when would they have
flirty.
met?
Flirty.
Yes, that's fair. Oh, right,
I
because
mean,
they're
Robert's
different.
up in the
Robert
sky.
gets
and,
around.
like-
He talks supports.
He talks
He
support.
Oh, I didn't even get that as the double entendre. Or innuendo. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it's funny with Robert De Niro's character because I feel like it was in 2007. So, like, the political climate was very different back then.
Yes.
So I wonder how, like, I don't think that would fly now. Like, I think it would be very offensive. But then it felt very innocent, if
Yeah,
that makes sense. You know, like,
totally.
it didn't feel like they were trying to make a point or really offend anyone. It just
No.
felt like,
No.
this is this guy and this is his life. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I more than anything, I appreciated that the actual message behind his through line or his storyline was that he is having to put on a face of this big, bad, tough exterior so that he can be the powerful ruler over this ship. And so I appreciated the message of like, but really maybe you don't, because your
His
whole
crew
crew knows actually exactly who you are and that you maybe haven't shed any blood. But I guess there is that like question of like, but does everybody else to be feared, you
Yeah.
have to, you know.
Maintain that reputation.
Sure, yeah, because when Septimus gets on the boat, he's like, he has a fierce reputation.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, which was like just a line that was thrown in post because they couldn't figure out how to move that transition along. Did you notice that? It's like when they're on the hill and they see the dock on the port or the boat.
Yeah, I guess I didn't clock if it was on screen or not.
It's not on screen.
Oh, it's not.
Oh, it's
yeah.
not?
So it's definitely
Oh, I
GDR.
didn't
Yeah,
notice
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's
I was like,
funny.
interesting.
Yeah. They end up falling in love. We left
Yes.
that out.
Yes.
Oh, they being Claire Danes and
Yeah.
Kristen.
Yeah,
You-
because
the star and
Tristan and Evain. Tristan and Evain, Tristan essentially captures her.
Yeah, he kidnaps her.
He kidnaps her, ties
Just
her.
another story of a woman
Yeah.
falling for her captor.
Yeah, ties her to a tree.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
But then eventually wears her down enough to where
This is Munchausen syndrome. That's what we just watched. Yeah, wait, is that? No, that's
No.
That's when
Munchausen
is
syndrome
when
is the
you're
mom, right?
putting them sick. But does
Yep.
it always have to be the mother? Maybe.
No, I think you're thinking of Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome.
Oh.
That's
Stockholm
exactly what
syndrome
I'm
is
thinking
what
of.
you-
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will say the part where he goes back to see Victoria
Mhm.
after he sleeps with
Even.
Evane, which I can't even imagine what that would be like because she's probably glowing. Like that bedroom's just lit up. Like he has to wear like special glasses, like
Just
special
cover his
UV
eyes the whole
glasses. But aside from that,
Yeah,
I didn't understand why he
surprised
needed to
that,
go
like,
back.
we didn't like cut to and the windows of the hotel room were
was,
just
like, blown
blasted out, and like across the street
or like
the-
thumping, like
So
Oh gosh. What we're talking about for people that, because I don't know if anybody's gonna understand. We're talking about the sex scene between the two of them.
Evane glows
Yes.
because she's a star, but
Mhm.
she glows. Her glowing happens when she's happy.
yeah, like in relation to her
And-
emotions.
Yeah, and not like horny happy, but like actually happy.
Genuinely.
Yes,
She's
we-
just
we
happy.
could say
But no,
orgasms
but-
make you genuinely
Sure.
happy.
But what I'm saying is she's also glowing when she's dancing. It's not like
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
like
yeah,
dancing and horny. Is my
Yeah.
point. Like
Or she's like in love.
Hi.
Like-
I'm just.
I know. I get what you're saying.
But he goes back to like show Victoria.
her hair. I also, now that we're talking about this, that's dumb. It's a little dumb.
Because
You're
one,
like,
I'm
maybe
like,
I don't love this.
Maybe
movie
I
as
hate
much
this
as
movie. No, I'm
I-
joking.
because like one, he's so in love with Evane now. Like why?
Yeah, why do you have to go back to Victoria?
Why go back to
in the
Victoria?
first place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels so like it's just to put her in
Because
harm's
plot.
way
Yeah.
because he like
Because plot.
yeah
It's like because plot.
plot.
You just saw a clip from one of our full episodes. If you want to watch the full episode, click here. And if you want to watch another clip from this same episode, click here.